Hey there, business owner. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Evolution Podcast. This is our weekly episode, and I'm so happy you are here. Let's get started. Hey there, entrepreneurs. Welcome to this week's episode of the Entrepreneur Evolution Podcast. I'm your host, Annette Walter, and this is the place where we interview entrepreneurs like yourself and hear real time, real talk, real business, what's working right now in their business that they are doing, implementing, and building and growing as they are surviving and thriving the current season that we are all in. I am really excited about today's guest. I'm joined today by Lois and Bob Gamerman. They are the owners of Soft Stuff Distributors. And man, if 2020 hasn't taught them a lot, they have really done a great job pivoting in their business, expounding and making quick decisions, and at the same time, really staying true to each other, respecting each other, and respecting each other's swim lanes as they continue to evolve in their business. I admire them. I always enjoy spending time with them, and this interview is really great. And you can feel through their words and through our time together today how passionate they are about really delivering a quality product to their clients. I know you're going to enjoy this listen, and I'd love to hear from you. As always, make sure you drop a 5-star review. It means the world to us and to our audience. Let me know if there's any other entrepreneurs out there that you'd recommend to interview or you'd like to hear from. We have a wonderful lineup coming to you in the new year that I cannot wait to share with you. And of course, don't feel alone in your business. You don't need to do this alone. Make sure you reach out, email me at urock@ievolveconsulting.com. Let's get some one-to-one time together. Let's go through and do your business edit and audit for 2021. And let's get you into our monthly membership that will surround you with other like-minded entrepreneurs that are currently scaling in their business, evolving in their business, and growing. And you want to be a part of it. You do not want to miss out on this. So reach out. You rock at ievolveconsulting.com. And in the meantime, enjoy this listen. Here are Lois and Bob Gamerman. Hi, Lois. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Good. How are you, Annette? It's so good to see you.
Oh my goodness. It is great to be here with both of you. We have both Bob and Lois, the dynamic duo, and we are going to have so much fun today. Your story, your company, your family, everything is just so powerful in what you're doing and what you've grown. And I'm so excited that you both are here today to share that with us. So thank you for being here.
Well, we're grateful that you afforded us the opportunity to chat to the world.
Absolutely. So Lois is the CEO and president of Soft Stuff Distributors, and Bob is her partner in crime. I mean, I don't even know what the actual title is here, Bob. What do we say?
She let me be COO.
Okay, Chief
Operating
Officer, right? Soft Stuff Distributors.
Baby.
That's right. Your teammate. So go ahead and give me the nutshell version. Catch me up to speed. Tell our listeners here, who are all entrepreneurs, all business owners and leaders, growing companies like yourself. Tell us the story.
When we started, or where we are now, or life in pandemic times. What do you want to know?
I want to know. Catch us up to speed and give us the nutshell version and the history of the company.
Okay, so on August 31st of this year, we launched our August 1st this year, we launched into our 31st year of business.
Wow.
We are a specialty food and beverage distributor to the hospitality and retail industries. We provide solutions.
Mm-hmm. How did it all start?
We started 31 years ago in the sunroom of our house.
Mm-hmm.
A crazy idea of figuring out how to fill soft serve machines with product and toppings and cups, and that's how we got our silly name.
Right. So we started 31 years ago. I had prior to that, I was working for Taylor Freezer Equipment, which is the largest manufacturer of soft serve and frozen yogurt machines. And I'd been in the DC market working for the local they were distribution centers, and they were individually owned.
Okay.
But way back when. And I've been there for 8.5 years. And I had met Bob actually at a food show at the Baltimore Convention Center from the Restaurant Association of Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And he was looking for a machine and got me instead. But
Wow.
Bob's always been a visionary and he's always been entrepreneurial.
Mm-hmm.
So he was at the Northeast Market in Baltimore. He had a couple of food opportunity stalls that he was working. If anybody's outside of this market, they're food halls.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland, Baltimore was like the first place in the country with Lexington Market to have those type of locations.
Right.
So it was 1988, 87, I guess, that when I met him. But in 1988, he had an idea for a coffee and dessert concept before anybody had ever heard of Starbucks. Asked me to go look at a retail location he was considering in Ellicott City, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
I went with him. Back then, I was the one who had a business card. And we gave it to the realtor, who sent me a thank you note and said, "I'm sorry that you didn't like the space, but I'll do everything I can to help you open the business of your dreams." Sent that to my office when I worked for Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
They read it, called me in, fired me on the spot. Let me tell you guys, all the listening audience, it took me 26 years before I could share that story because I was mortified. I was embarrassed. I was a good girl. I did everything I needed to do. This is an honest to God truth. Summarily dismissed for being disloyal. I called Bob. One of his many ventures was?
I was in the car phone business. And when I say car phones, was attached to the car.
Okay.
So I put one in her car, and she called me and was crying about what is she going to do now? And I said, "What are you crying about? We know where all the bodies are buried. We'll go sell them product." So that's how it started.
Right.
Wow.
So immediately, went after we started selling frozen yogurt mix that we were getting from Axelrod Dairy, because that guy who ran that distribution center was a friend.
Okay.
And we would pick up, pay cash every day, pick up, go out and sell it. And then we built a business. And then, Marriott International was our fourth customer when they were running Wyman Park Hospital back in Baltimore City, which doesn't exist anymore, back when they were in food service management.
Right.
Before they partnered with Sodexo and then spun all that business off.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it was 6 months in. We had a couple come over for dinner. They brought a cheesecake that was being manufactured locally. Bob tried it, said it was the best cheesecake he'd ever eaten. That Monday, I called the manufacturer, asked for permission to come in and have a meeting. And within a year, hand to God, we were selling 1,000 cheesecakes a week, 3 at a time. Because it was lightning in a bottle at that point. Nobody was doing frozen distribution or manufacturing really of high-end quality gourmet desserts.
Now we're selling cheesecake and frozen yogurt mix, and we decided we needed to round it out a little bit. We scraped our money together and went to the National Restaurant Association show, and two people who had no idea what they were doing wandering through the halls and didn't quite get the respect we needed, but we did find one manufacturer that was making layer cakes.
Okay.
And didn't know we could make them come and show us the product. We drove up to New York and visited their bakery, and we were all of a sudden in the dessert business as opposed to just the ice cream business, and it evolved from there. As time went on, people came and found us and asked us to distribute for them, and we've never looked back until March.
Right.
16.
So let me ask you this. Let me just rewind a little bit. So at what point did you marry in all of this? What part of the relationship and the business side of things? Where were you in the chapter there?
So we were in business together, and that was, I guess, 3 years in, and we involved the accountant to some extent as to whether we could get married or not.
Right.
And we had set the date, and then all of a sudden an opportunity came our way. We had 2 trucks at that point.
Let me stop you for 1 second, because I want you to finish the story. But pay attention. If you're a true entrepreneur, you'll appreciate this.
Okay.
We had 2 trucks, and we were pedaling along, and an opportunity came to us. There's a company that was national at the time, but we had grown up with locally here called Ms. Desserts, and
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to get their trucks off the roads.
Mm-hmm.
And they offered us an opportunity to compete for that business.
Okay.
So there were, 750 customers that they offered to us, an ice cream distributor and Cisco. And we could go and get whatever we could get.
Wow.
And we weren't allowed to announce it before that day.
What day
Now, it
was
just so happens that was June 7th of 1993. And on June 6th, we were getting married.
Oh, boy.
So we did what most reasonable people would do. We put a staff together that called everybody on the list. Oh, actually, we mailed to everybody on the list and then had them set up to be called every day. And we got married on Sunday and then honeymooned in Glen Burnie, Maryland, where our intergalactic headquarters were.
Goodness.
And we went from 2 trucks to 4 trucks that day.
Wow. Doubled.
Great opportunity.
So
What a great way to start your marriage, right?
Right,
Yep.
exactly. Because
Absolutely.
anybody can go to Hawaii, but not everybody can double the size of their business overnight.
That's right. That's huge. I don't know if I ever realized that you were business partners before you were married.
Right. Bob and I lived together for 3 years before we got married, and we were in business the whole time.
Wow.
And shortly after that, we did ask the accountant if it was okay to get pregnant, and so I
Uh-huh.
did.
Uh-huh. There you did. There you go.
Yep.
Isn't it funny how your accountant's always a part of every decision as
Should be.
a working couple entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, the name, right? The niche.
My fault.
You think it's your fault?
We tried
think
for years to change it.
Oh, you did? Okay. So walk me through that, because I know a lot of people go through that. They pick a name based on day one, fast forward
Right.
31 years later, right? And I know that you serve, pun intended, so many other things right now, right? So go ahead. So talk to us about that, because I have a lot of entrepreneurs out there considering rebranding, looking at rebranding, facelifts.
So bottom line is, I say this about restaurants all the time.
Uh-huh.
It's a mystery as to why one restaurant is very successful and one restaurant's not. And people think it's location or the brand, and it really is execution. And to some extent, it doesn't matter what the brand is.
Right.
A lot of people argue with that, but we did, try to change it, and then we tried to soften it. We went to SSD as opposed to Soft Stuff Distributors.
Okay.
Well, actually, Art Annett from A&A Signs, do you know them? They're really nice people. They were our neighbors in the first warehouse we were in. He came and said, it's a silly name. It's a silly name. No one's going to take you seriously. I've created, I want you to consider going to SSD, and here, I created a logo for you.
Okay.
So we tried that for a number of years. People weren't buying it. We were always Soft Stuff. We've continued to be Soft Stuff, and really comes down to the fact that we could be called, JJ's, and it wouldn't matter. It was what we were doing, not what we're called.
So I used to say to people, it's a silly, when they would comment on it, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, it's a silly name for a serious company. But I think that we're actually ahead of our time, because now in the internet world, the world of e-commerce, the world of instant, quick, catchy, if you look at names that people have created for their businesses, it's that they string consonants together and you can't pronounce them. Right. And that's the expectation. Right. So we are Soft Stuff. We own it proudly. Yes. We love our company. We love our logo right there.
I see it. I love it.
Colorful, it's bright, it's happy, and doing business with us is colorful, bright, and happy as well.
That's right. Well, and not only that, but Lois and Bob are the brand. It's the duo. And I love pre-COVID when I would see you at the different conferences, and you really are such a solid team. So what's your kind of rules with each other in business and in life and in everything? How do you do it?
Yeah, you say yes, ma'am, and then you move on.
Everyone's a smarty. Look, here's the deal. We meet people, and I know you live this too, who say to you, Oh, I could never work with my spouse. Oh,
Yeah.
I couldn't be. You know what? Then don't. I'm fortunate because I'm married to and working with my best friend.
Right. Right.
It's about respect. It's about understanding, and also understand that when we started this business, we started together. So
Right.
I didn't come in a subservient position to him, nor he to I.
Right.
Plus, we have very different skill sets, and we have somewhat an understanding of our limitations, and we work well together because of that. And I think that neither of us are interested in a fight, so
Right.
we work things
You're not
out
to
if there's
fight.
something comes up. Yeah.
Right. No, not at all. And it got a little more complicated over the years because a year into our starting soft stuff, we moved into our first warehouse, and my parents, who had just retired, my dad had owned clothing stores, my mother was a nurse, they volunteered their services. So now it's the two of us plus my folks. And
Right.
it came, my father said, I'm coming for 6 months, and he stayed for 27 years.
So he was an entrepreneur.
Oh, my father, absolutely. Bob's father was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And actually, that's why they call it Baltimore. My parents knew his parents. I didn't know him. He grew up
Wow.
across the street from my parents' best friend. So, but you have to decide what's important to you and what hill you're going to take. And at the end of the day, I would hope that your relationship with your spouse is more important than your relationship with the business, and that your goals are aligned. It keeps you from fighting. We want the same thing. And if we weren't on the same page and we didn't respect each other, I know I'm the implementer, he's a visionary, we wouldn't be alive here in COVID. I can tell you that.
And I think that there's core values that have to be shared, and work ethic. We believe that each other will work as hard as the other one will. And we approach things with honor and integrity and pride, and all of the things that are important, we're aligned on.
I love that. I love that. And Lois, you're the implementer and he's the visionary?
Yeah, to a
Wow.
large extent.
So fast forward, March, you said, were you marking it by March? Did I hear March 16th, the actual day?
March 16th.
Okay.
That's when our wonderful governor shut down the state of Maryland, and that wonderful is sincere and not meant in a snarky fashion.
We approach business in what we thought was a balanced way. We focused on what we were good at, which was food service segment of the food business, which is hotels and office cafeteria and campus cafeterias and schools and things like that. And we made sure that no one customer represented more than 17% of our business, because if we lost one of them, we wanted to be able to survive. And of course, every single one of those segments went down.
Wow.
And we went to 10% of our volume from the previous year.
Wow. So what was that day like? Were they calling you? Were you calling them? Were they
To them.
Your portfolio of clients when COVID hit? Are they just saying we have to cancel all orders? Like, what happened?
That's a good question.
So it wasn't.
I don't remember. It was like a blur, right?
No, we remember very clearly. It wasn't black and white. There were places that made decisions to shut down, and some of them slowly went away. But for us, it was very clear. So last year we had decided we were no longer going to be a shoebox of receipts company. So every year our accountant would receive a pile of receipts, and we'd say, fix it. So we were running. I'm a merchant. We were running it like we were opening the doors and ringing a register, and that's all we had to do. So we weren't running the company from our books. We decided last year that wasn't okay anymore, and we hired a fractional CFO company who got us somewhat straight and was progressively getting us more solid footing. And we created a better banking relationship with Howard Bank, and all of those things set us up for being able to go in with our eyes open And we were having a conversation the week before with our CFO about what might be coming down the pike.
Yeah, so John Redmond from Foresight CFO practice is our CFO, our fractional CFO, which I'll go off on a little tangent here. For those people who are out there listening who don't have a CFO or a fractional CFO or a controller in their company, it was hard for me to, for many years, wrap my head around why I needed that. We had an accountant, right? And for many years before my dad died, he did all of our books. That's a whole different perspective when you get to the size company that we had gotten to, which was really big. We were not a small business, and I was still doing it like it was a back of the envelope kind of thing. So we began working with them in September of last year. We vetted them really closely, and they came well recommended. Our friend Carrie Rich from the Global Good Fund was using them, and she recommended it. It was a godsend. It has saved us. I mean, truly saved us through this horrible situation. So in our organization, our HR director and our human resource director and our operations director are all considerably younger than we are, who live with millennial fear of everything, right? And and it's well deserved, because it's a different generation than what we came up with. The external threats to our security were very different prior to 9/11. These are all people who've grown up post 9/11. So they created the COVID or coronavirus task force here at Soft Stuff. And they started meeting in the beginning of February. And each week they would meet and they would assess what the risk was. Now, our HR director is from the Netherlands, so she brings a European perspective to an American thought process here. And she is very conservative, which is fabulous. Anyway, they met every week, and then they would brief us as to what they wanted to do, or what they thought we needed to do, and what measures we needed to put in place.
Wow.
The Friday before, which I think was the 13th of March.
Yes, it was a Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, John Redmond we'd had a meeting with him, and he said, look, we could wind up looking like Italy, because that was the first country to really shut down, right? What are we going to do? We need to talk about who we're going to lay off if we have to. We've never laid off anybody. If you're not working for Soft Stuff, you did something really wrong, right? For us to have terminated, or you left on your own. We never furloughed or laid off anyone. Anyway, we had a solid plan in place that Friday. Monday at 11:16, I think it was, when the governor made the announcement, we were ready. The HR director, she was ready. So was everybody else in the organization.
We started Sunday.
Right. Well, I should say that. That's correct. So Sunday, we sent out an email to everyone in leadership and said, we need you to read or reread Who Moved My Cheese, and then come in here with a solid list of other businesses that we could move to if they shut the country down and restaurants go away.
You did it that quickly.
Swear to God. And everyone in here will tell you that.
It's a great book. I'm going to drop the link to Who Moved My Cheese. Everyone, at this point, how many people are on the team?
There's 8 of us.
8 of us. Okay. Who read the book? Okay.
Right. Or listen to it, because it's 42 minutes if you do it as an audiobook.
Okay.
So I would say do that way. Anyhow, so Bob and I sat down and came up with our list. They all came in with their lists, and we had things like, we now own the name midatlanticmorgue.com, just because they were predicting such mass death, unfortunate death from coronavirus. That
we said, what's our assets? We have freezers, we have frozen trucks. And that may be an asset. And we whiteboarded it. And one of the things was go into the morgue business.
Right. Freezer space at that point is real estate. Right.
What we wound up settling on was that we were going to create a direct-to-consumer home delivery business, and we would call it Shop Soft Stuff. And we had no idea what we were doing at all, which was evidenced by the fact that we're not still doing Shop Soft Stuff. But it was a great exercise.
And it redirected what we were doing and what we carried and things like that.
Right. And on that Monday, So on that Monday, the 16th, we were all, when I say we were all prepared, I'm talking about leadership. It wasn't just Bob and myself and the CFO being prepared. And Ileana Kleinfelter, who was our HR director, she had already done the research through the state. She knew that if we laid off or furloughed more than 25 people, we could do a mass import or export of data or import into the Maryland Unemployment, where we would get everybody ahead of the line. So we'd already identified, because you don't need drivers if you don't work, warehouse. We had no idea.
Mhm.
So we furloughed 27 people that day. It was the hardest day ever.
Mhm.
But think about this. Doing it quick was like ripping the Band-Aid off,
Mhm.
because people knew it was going to come.
Mhm.
Why should they show up first of all, drain the resources to pay them to sit here and not have the phone ring or not have truck deliveries to make on the truck while waiting for the anvil to drop.
Right. False hope.
And we got them in first position. So people started receiving their unemployment benefits immediately.
Right.
There was no gap. And we felt like that was a service that we did for them.
Absolutely. That quick decision making.
Yeah.
And then everybody started becoming different people, different positions in the company.
Okay.
And our IT guy immediately started figuring out how we were going to get a website up to be in the grocery business.
Right.
We started building inventory. So we've always been in the specialty food business. We never were in the commodity business or the produce or dairy or anything that was center of the plate. And in order to be in the grocery business, we had to figure out how to find those things.
Mm-hmm.
We even went into the flour business for a little bit.
For Mother's Day.
For Mother's Day.
Wow.
So anything that we could do to stay in business. But what making that move did, even though we lost a little bit of money at it, is it put us in the meat business, and it put us in the kosher meat business, which is a vein that is not, we have an unfair advantage on at this point.
Great.
And that turn put us into we went into the farmers markets, being the kosher meat business.
So what were the conversations behind the scenes between Lois and Bob during that time when you didn't have on the leadership armor, the strong face, and just what were you two really thinking behind the scenes? How did it feel?
We never felt like we weren't going to make it at all. We always felt like we would.
That optimism, is that like that kind of entrepreneurial optimism almost, or?
Well, I think it's very different for the two of us, because I don't find value in worrying in that way. I'd rather just be casual about it and figure something out. But we deal with things in very different ways, and but panic was not an option, and
it wasn't that way for me either.
We felt like we were, mostly because of the footing we got financially or structurally, we felt like we could move in different directions, and we became a completely different company. And Lois likes
B2B to B2C overnight, right?
Right. And Lois and back, because the stuff that we built for the grocery business all of a sudden became attractive in the wholesale business, and we became a different partner to our customers. We became, because of how we approach business, our minimums were lower. Our willingness to go to you 5 days a week is 6 days a week that we had to. Created solutions for people where other companies were saying, well, I can't afford the smaller minimums, and I want you not to get deliveries 3 days a week. I want you to get deliveries 1 day a week because it's cheaper for me.
Right.
So we became a different company, and we always believed that there were opportunities, and they started building. There were many opportunities that came our way.
Right, and I think it's important to recognize that Bob and I realize what it takes to think like an operator, because of his background in restaurant and entrepreneurship, ownership of food service locations. You got to think about what's important. Well, low minimums, number one, and frequency of delivery, and the fact that we had always specialized in breaking cases, and we were there to serve. We're still there to serve. That's what we do. And in times of uncertainty, when you didn't know whether or not at that point, we were at no capacity in restaurants, all of it's carry on. You don't know what's coming around the bend. So people were they didn't have the cash flow to be able to onboard a lot of big orders. So we needed to work with them with smaller orders, and we needed to have frequency because you don't want to bring in a big order of anything and get shut down tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Be out of business, because what are you going to do?
Right.
So we have our operator hat, we have our distributor hat, and then we have what it takes to be a good community partner hat.
Mm-hmm.
So because during that time, we met Matt Stevens from Somebody Cares Baltimore, who also happens to be the chaplain for Baltimore City Police Department, who needed to rent a guy in a truck for 2 months. And that's what we did. He rented a soft stuff person, and we provided them assistance, and we picked up and delivered more than 140,000 meals over a 2-month period of time.
Wow.
We also worked with World Kitchens and delivered product for them to people in need. And we rescue produce, and I guess we've rescued more than 100 tons, right?
140, 150 tons.
Right. And made sure that while we were trying to figure out what we needed to do.
Amazing.
But a lot of it comes down to luck and actually having a good reputation for being a mensch, for taking care of your community and your friends. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we were given other opportunities, like Bob had said, we talked to the people that we knew that were running a farmer's market down in DC and said, well, can we come in? We're distributors, right? Nah, you're not. You're a distributor. You don't have anything local. Right. Like what? I said, we have local meat, because we'd started a partnership with J.W. Trueth. And he's like, nah, it's got to be kosher. Well, we can get kosher. Boom, we were in that business. We started doing farmers markets down there once a week, and there were significant numbers that we started to turn. And it became almost a proof of concept for us. Mm-hmm. So now we have Feeding You Kosher, which does national and local distribution on kosher meat, chicken, lamb, and fish, which then led to a great opportunity with Goldbelly. Are you familiar with Goldbelly?
I am not.
So Goldbelly is the largest platform for people to order restaurant quality food in the country, possibly the world.
Wow.
And one of our manufacturers has a site on there and gave us an introduction. So then we became their only kosher meat, chicken, lamb, and fish distributor.
Great.
Kugels, matzo balls, challah, things like that.
Right.
Today we're launching Chesapeake Bay Gourmet.
Great.
Which is crab cakes and crab soup and turkey and lamb and standing ribs, all from the Chesapeake Bay watershed, Smith Island cakes. So we are ChesapeakeBayGourmet.com. Mm-hmm. And next, in 2 weeks, we're taking Atman's, the iconic deli Atman's, national. They've asked us to take them national in e-commerce, because we do e-commerce really well now.
Wow.
So that'll go on Goldbelly. And there's Oberweis is going to happen in a couple of weeks, which we can talk about that in a minute.
So these are huge wins.
Yeah. So now we're back to 55% off of our best. 2019 was our best year ever.
Right.
So, and this week over last week, we're up 14.7%.
Okay. So this week, year over year, you're up 14% over 2019's numbers. Is that what you're saying?
No, our growth week over week from last week to this week.
Okay. Sorry, did I say year over year? I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I was just understanding it differently. Sorry. So you are on the rise for this year. Got it. Yeah. That's a great sign. That's a really great sign. And so you have all these different domain names, e-commerce. You really nailed down that process, that strategy, and diversifying your product line, which is amazing. What is your thought, and how do you feel about 2021 and your positioning with where you are now and what you've learned?
So we've been working really hard at projections. So now we have all these channels, and we didn't even mention the fact that there are a number of local manufacturers that have their own trucks on the road that in normal times probably shouldn't have those trucks on the road.
Right.
But now they can't really afford to, and they've come to us to take over their distribution. So we've taken over distribution for a number of local companies.
Right. Yeah.
And we put our salespeople back out on the road in June. And
that's great.
So we had a much larger sales force than we have now. There are people who just couldn't see themselves going into restaurants. They're afraid. And I can't say I blame them. Whatever your feelings are on the crisis that we're living through, You have to do what protects you and your family. What
Mhm.
protects us and our family is to do what we do
Mhm.
every day. So just having 3 people out there plus our director of sales, I'm proud to tell you that they've opened up this is not customers that we've absorbed through acquisition of other companies' distribution, but just either reopened or new customers, well over 300. It's
Wow.
phenomenal,
Wow.
just phenomenal.
That's
So we're
such a
going
good
to,
sign too.
and we're moving in. Well, there's a ton of opportunity. You just have to be positioned to be able to and to be able to afford to do it. And then we're moving into grocery as well. We're excited that we have a meeting on Wednesday of next week with Kroger.
Awesome. And that's
It
probably
is.
through WeBank, right?
Well, that's actually a good question. So there's a company out of Chicago called Oberweis, Oberweis, and they are the oldest and largest bottler of gently pasteurized glass bottled milk. They pull their milk from 11 family farms within 90 miles of their facility.
Mm.
They're in thousands and thousands of grocery stores throughout the United States. They are not in the Mid-Atlantic, and they asked us to go under contract to be their distributor. We're not in retail as deeply as we would like to be, and they like us, and they're helping us. So they're already in all of the other Krogers and other markets. They're not here. Kroger's made an announcement last week, I'm sure you saw this, that they were tripling down on their billion-dollar roundtable position. And for people who don't know what the billion-dollar roundtable is, it's a select group of companies that are based in the United States that spend more than $1 billion a year with diversity suppliers, women, LGBT, veteran, people of color. You know, there's a whole gamut of a whole rainbow of people who fall under the diversity heading.
Right.
So last year they spent 3.4 billion, and they expect within, I think, the next 10 years to get to 10 billion.
Wow.
So Oberweis had seen that article, had contacted Angel Colon, who do you know? I know you know Angel.
Yes.
And immediately he wrote them back and said, "We need a meeting." And that was like an hour after they'd sent him an email. So we're now on our way.
Wonderful. So it sounds like 2021 is looking very promising for you.
We expect that at the end of 2021 to be above what our projections were for 2021 when we were planning 2 years out. God willing that continues.
Right.
And I want everyone to understand that we have not abandoned soft stuff at all. We keep working daily to grow soft stuff. So we're no longer running 4 trucks. We're back up to running 7 instead of running 13, but
Right.
Every day, every way. So what Bob was going to say earlier was that we have not pivoted our business. We're swiveling. We're moving depending upon where we need to be and where our efforts and attentions need to be in managing all of these channels.
And they're not wildly different businesses. They're all working off the same infrastructure and off the same inventory. And the channel that we didn't talk about is we have become a 3PL solution for other people in the industry. So people are coming to us to fulfill e-commerce business for them and redistribute for them as a staging partner. If they're on the West Coast and they need somebody on the East Coast to essentially store, pick, pack, and ship. That's a business that we believe has a lot of growth. So you put all of those businesses together, and we're projecting more success than when we were just soft stuff. We became a different company.
Absolutely.
And less vulnerable. Emergencies that happened to us on March 16th won't affect us the same way if they happen again.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because when you go back to the basic textbook business, SWOT analysis, it's nobody really had, COVID-19 in their threats, right? And now it's different. And if many companies survived and many companies reinvented and did so many things that were just and connected with the communities on a different level and did so many amazing things this year that it is power just to move everybody forward and get through it. Now, And that's not, doesn't even account for all of the pent up demand that we may see
Right.
happen, once we are really, really through this. Like Lois had said, we're not fist, elbow touching anymore at the conferences. We can actually, be at the conferences and enjoy.
When do you think that'll be?
When do I think that will be? I'm not so sure. I really am not so sure. I think that I'm not so sure. I really don't know.
My guess is that you're not going to see an uptick in true travel for business and conventions until at least by the end of the third quarter of 2021.
If not later, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and just the conversation that we're having via, a video platform is very indicative of the way things will be, right? Why lose a whole day to have to fly someplace or drive 100 miles? When you can be so much more productive. And I think people who were working crazy hard hours before, and they're still working crazy hard, different hours at home. Now, when schools go back, they'll be a part of their children's lives after school for after school functions and evening events or homework and dinner together instead of spending 4 hours on the Beltway. And I think it's going to be a real shift in the way office work is done and how people are interacting with each other.
It's so
which
true.
affects our business because all of the corporate feeders, if you have 20% or 30% of the office force back in there, they're not running these cafeterias the way they were. Right?
They're running
so that we always had, when he was going over our portfolio of business, I know you didn't intentionally leave out independent operators. That's always been the backbone of our business. We love independent operators. We love working with companies out there that see the value in hard work, smart work, and being innovative. Right. That's what we see ourselves as.
So are you looking for more space with being, this kind of East Coast anchor, this PPL? Are you looking for more freezer space? What are you putting out to the universe right now that you're expanding?
So here's the thing. The first 9.5 weeks of this year, we were up 21% over the year before as soft. And we were building a war chest, and we were actually very much ready to move into a new facility, which fortunately we didn't at that point.
Okay.
But we are now have grown past our ability to handle the product in the facility we're in.
Right.
But, we've spent the last 9 months losing money every month. And we have had the benefit of a war chest that we started and PPP and EIDL loan and a Maryland technology loan and all kinds of things that helped us, but we still were losing money. And fortunately, with our projections, if we're right, in about a month, we'll stop losing money.
Great.
And so the answer to your question is the CFO won't let us move to a new facility.
Right. Well,
so in a perfect world,
that's a really powerful message that you gave to our audience today is that outsourced, you call it, what do you call it? The fractional CFO.
Fractional
I like
CFO.
that term. I like that term a lot. And, the power of having someone to really get those key performance indicators, those consistent reporting, pulling those numbers, because if you don't have those facts, the numbers tell the story, right? If you don't have those facts, you can't make those major decisions. Our gut will only take us so far, right?
Right. So I have a question for you. On the audience of your podcast,
yes.
Is it mostly diversity business owners, or are you out? Because I've known you forever.
Yes.
So I didn't need to do the research on you before we gladly said yes. So if you had to give us a snapshot of who your listener is?
So we have national reach, and we have entrepreneurs of all different levels. So we have people who are wanting to start their businesses and thinking about starting their businesses, thinking about going into business with their spouse, thinking about buying a franchise, all different levels up until those who run $100 million companies and beyond. to many who've even sold businesses and
Okay.
still are listeners. So it's really
There's a reason I asked.
Go ahead.
And the reason why I asked is that if you don't have somebody that you trust, and I would take my glasses off and look into your eyes out there and say, you have to find the right CFO partner. Just because we love ours doesn't mean you would love him.
Right.
But this really involves a total commitment to getting naked.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
It really, at the end of the day, does. That's what you're paying them for. So you have to find a partner, because that's who they are. They should be your partner. They work for you, but they should be your partner.
Absolutely. Well,
who you don't feel, and I'm speaking from personal experience, okay? Because we vetted a lot. That I didn't feel that I felt like I could be comfortable and honest with it. I wasn't threatened or intimidated by, didn't feel like I was being judged. And that's a woman thing more than I think a male entrepreneur's perspective, right? And for me, I needed to find that, because what did we talk to? Probably a half a dozen practices. And I really felt like they were feeding at the trough, that they weren't necessarily bringing value, and they didn't want to hold our hand and walk us through what was necessary. And in our case, our CFO is just gentle, and I like it. He's smart and he's gentle.
And here's the other difference is I feel like he works as hard at this as we do.
Yes.
I felt like the other people were telling us how much work we were going to have to do to make this happen.
Right. The internal kind of detangling of things, right? And, you know, especially for a couple entrepreneur company to find that right chemistry with a vendor, any vendors, but especially the financial side of things. Like you said, you have to be willing to fully undress in front of them and say, because as real and raw as you take it is as much as you will get out of it, right? And
That's
you have
right.
to be honest. You almost feel like they're dipping into your, you know, you hired them only a few short years ago. So that's 30 years of history, right?
Right. So here's what I figured out is that everyone has a dirty closet. Don't think that everybody else's closet is clean and you're the only person that hasn't hung everything up and it's in piles on the floor, right? Everyone has a dirty closet. But the only way it gets clean is if you're willing to open up the door. And it was when I was willing to do that things really it got us on the track that we needed to be.
The growth happened, the true growth, the growth that felt different probably within, right?
Clean.
And intentional.
Absolutely. So I was going to ask you, you know, looking back retrospectively, what you wish you had done sooner, what would it be? Is that what one of the things?
Yeah, you know, again, we go back to Bob being the visionary, me being the implementer. And when I talked about my parents being involved in the business, so my dad was like the guy who was waiting for abacuses and carbon paper to come back. He's spinning in his grave when he hears me say this, because he was a really successful businessman, but he owned clothing stores, which was a very different thing. And he died 7 years ago. So I guess he was with us 24 years, not 27. So those who are doing the math at home, don't score me in properly on this. Anyway, we needed to fully utilize technology to a greater level, but we knew he couldn't do it, right? That just wasn't in his wheelhouse. So if we computerized everything and mechanized things the way he needed to be, he would have been rendered useless. So a pox on me for not wanting that to be the case, because my dad worked every day here up until 6 months before he died.
And that's
and he died at 90.
And that, you know, that right there, having him in the company is priceless, and those memories and that bond and that relationship. Yes. And that's, you know, that's part of the story.
Yeah, it very much is. So
part of the story. And everyone who has had a parent and lost a parent and had a parent that works in the business or is like just their go-to, you know, resource in things that you ask things for, letting go of those tendencies is so hard.
Right. Well, I actually spoke to a woman entrepreneur a number of months ago through, I think it was the ReThrive program, who called me afterwards one day when we were talking, and she's like, I know you used to work with your dad. Mine's like, he's in the way. And I took this business over from him. What am I going to do?
Mm,
You know, that's a really hard conversation to have with somebody.
it is hard. Oh my goodness. Oh, we could go off on that tangent forever. I'm just getting teary-eyed thinking about it. Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I have always admired both of you. Your integrity, your work ethic, your the way that you truly and honestly build relationships and connect, and your thoughtfulness about how you see things, just how they knit together, and then you take action on it. It truly represents both of, Bob being the visionary and you being the implementer. It's just such an amazing, amazing chemistry that you both have, and you give back and you make a really great impact on your team and on everything that you deliver in the community. So I am really happy that you were here today. Tell us where to find you. Tell us where we can help you, and any kind of last minute asks or shares that you'd like to share with us today.
Well, I'm always available by email. My email is Lois, Loisg, Lois G for Lois Gamerman, at go, G-O, softstuff, SOFTSTUFF.com. Send me an email, put in the subject line that, heard you on a podcast, on a Nets podcast. And I'll always respond. Reach out to me on LinkedIn.
It's great.
Mine is Bob Gamerman at GoSoftStuff. I'm sorry, Bob G at GoSoftStuff.com.
Bob G.
And I'd be happy to chat with anybody.
That's
And
great.
you're asking me for my one want, well, aside from a cure for COVID and
Right.
everybody,
Freezer.
and everybody getting their lives back. We really, really want to continue to grow and swivel into retail. So if anyone can help us make connections with national retailers that are looking for a company that provides exceptional DSD, direct store door delivery in the Mid-Atlantic, please feel free to reach out and connect us. One of the opportunities, and I won't go long on this, is that there's a lot of emerging brands out there that are looking for distribution because the main companies that take them to larger distribution hurt their businesses. We're not looking for that. We're looking to incubate and grow those companies into retail. And that's where we see the greatest part of our growth in the next year or two. So hook us up, man. That'd be great.
Wonderful. You both are so wonderful. Thank you so, so much. I cannot wait to see you both in person.
Yeah. Stay well.
Awesome. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Wow. What an episode. Did you learn something new? I hope so. I am so happy you were able to be here with us today. I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a review and I will be sure to read it and respond to you. Also, if you'd like to email me, my email address is yourock@iEvolveConsulting.com. Hit subscribe, and every Tuesday you'll get notification when the next episode drops. We really have some amazing interviews and tips in the future. Anything you need, I'm here for you. I want you to keep your momentum. I want to help you stay accountable. I want you to stay inspired. I want you to evolve. So please let me know what you need, and I'd love to hear from you. Take care until next time.